I never imagined a single knock could rearrange the furniture of my life. I drifted awake thinking it was the wind, or the house settling, and then the sound came again, gentle, hesitant, like someone testing if the world still belonged to them. That knock was Dylan's. We hadn't known each other long. He was the young man who'd taken the spare room 3 months after my divorce, polite and quiet, the kind of tenant you barely notice unless you look for him. He was 24, self-sufficient in the way a stranger can be, and he'd been nothing but respectful since he moved in. But that door that night opened a room in me I thought had been firmly locked. My name is Claire Martin. At 43, I had learned to live with the soft echo of an empty house. 5 years of divorce taught me how to make a life out of routine. Early mornings, solitary dinners, the solace of a well-made bed. I like being alone most of the time, but not lonely, not in the way the movies portray it. Still, there was a hollow I had learned to ignore, a place in my chest that got quieter each year. When Dylan first knocked on my door at 2 a.m., I assumed it was something practical. He'd forgotten his keys or needed to use the phone. I did not expect the urgency in his voice. He stood framed by the hallway light, pajama top clutched to him, eyes raw with a kind of exhaustion I recognized, the kind that comes after a life shift. "I can't sleep," he said simply. There was no apology in how he said it, only admission. I patted the bed and told him to come in. People come to your house in the middle of the night for many reasons. They do not always come because they want something more than warmth. He lay down beside me like a neighbor instead of a stranger, a small, careful surrender. The weight of him made the mattress sigh, and for a while all that existed was the rhythm of 2 breaths. Conversation is a strange thing in the dark. Details fall away. What's left is voice and heat and the small currency of honesty. Dylan talked about the pressure he felt at work, about a fight with a friend that had left him disoriented. I listened because that's what you do when someone you barely know entrusts you with a night. There were lines in the dark that I could feel shifting. The ways we'd known each other as simple housemates blurring into something more electric. He turned his face to me at one point, and the moonlight found the plane of his cheek in a way that made me remember being young and reckless, eyes bluer and hopeful. "You always know how to make a house a home," he murmured. It was the kind of compliment that carried more, the way he said the word home, like it might be fragile. The next morning the sunlight was the kind of honest light that reveals everything. Over coffee he kept stealing looks. Nothing lascivious, but attentive, as if he were trying to catalog me and hold on to the image. We fell into small rhythms, shared errands, late-night talks that lasted past midnight, the quiet companionship of 2 adults who found comfort in each other's proximity. He cooked sometimes, I did the dishes. He laughed at the ridiculousness of my bad sofa choices. I teased him about the way he made the bed too perfectly. These are not the markers of a scandal. They are the marks of people weaving their days together. And yet the tension grew because it felt forbidden in a way that surprised me. I had loved before, trusted and been betrayed, and had chosen solitude to heal. Dylan was young enough to be my son if fate had arranged it differently, and precisely because he wasn't, the thought of leaning in felt both possible and wrong. I found myself policing the way he stood near me, the accidental brushes against my fingertips that made my skin hum. There was a guilty thrill to it, not because the feeling was shameful, but because it was unexpected and loud. We never forced anything. There were moments, close glances in the laundry room, a hand paused at my waist before it retreated, that felt like lightning frozen for a second. The kind of tension that fills a room when 2 people are teetering on the edge of an unspoken promise. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. I started to ask myself what I wanted. Safety or risk? The steady, predictable path, or the tremor down my spine when he was near? Then James appeared in my life again. James Caldwell, an old college friend who had become a steady option, a man who liked schedules and small kindnesses. When he asked me out for dinner and later told me in a cautious, hopeful voice that he'd like something more permanent, I realized I was standing at a crossroads. James offered an easy future. Someone to share bills, to pick up medicines when I was sick, to grow old with in a comfortable rhythm. Dylan offered a different kind of future, uncertain and bright, full of the ache of wanting. Both were real forms of love, neither came with guarantees. One late afternoon, the 3 of us crossed paths by chance at the community center where I volunteered. The sight of Dylan and James in the same room made something inside me crack open. I excused myself and went for a walk, heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with exercise. The truth is, choices are not always the loud, grand decisions we imagine. They are the quiet acts of replying to the inner voice that asks us to be honest. I told Dylan we needed to talk. He sat on the kitchen counter, his hands wrapped around a mug, and listened while I fumbled for words. I told him about James, about the proposal I hadn't yet accepted. He didn't rage or plead. He simply looked at me with the sort of clarity that only youth sometimes holds. "Whatever you choose," he said, "I want you to be happy, Claire. That's all I've ever wanted for you." His tenderness was a mirror, reflecting back everything I had been denying. In the end, I made the choice that felt like integrity. I accepted James's steady promise because it honored the life I wanted to create, a life of partnership that didn't hinge on the fragility of stolen moments. I told Dylan the truth, that I cared for him deeply, but that I could not ask him to be the thing that repaired my past or the escape that would complicate both our lives. He took it with a kind of graceful pain that broke me and steadied me at once. Time has a way of softening sharp edges. Dylan moved out 6 months later, taking a job across town. We kept in touch for a while, the occasional text, an update on a promotion, a photo of a new apartment. My life with James unfolded in the way stability does. Small rituals, quiet evenings, and the slow building of trust. There is a shelf in my heart where the memory of Dylan sits like a book you return to every few years. It's not a possession I hide. It's part of the story that taught me how to choose. If you're listening and you've ever felt that electric pull for someone you shouldn't, someone too young, someone too different, someone who reminds you of a road you once wanted to take, know that feeling does not make you less moral. It makes you human. How you respond to it is what shapes you. I chose the honest, honorable path that fit the life I wanted to build. I didn't deny the ache that came with letting go. I honored it. That, more than anything, was the thing that helped me move forward. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.